Councilman Best, Deputy Mayor Best, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the
flag
flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda, including action memorandum 18-064, to execute change order number 4 with Roger Hickle Contracting Incorporated to install 150 lineal feet of additional 24-inch dip line from the control building to the MBBR as part of the wastewater treatment plant facility plant upgrade, or update, excuse me. And also the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, our joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning on April 17th. What's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve.
second.
It's been moved and approved that we approve the agenda, including the consent agenda. Does the council have any comments or? Okay. All those in favor, please respond by saying yes.
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 Those opposed, please say no. The yeses have it, and the agenda before us has been approved. The first item after the approval of the agenda is communications and appearance requests, and we have a proclamation that we would like to present. Karen, let's see, should I go that way? We still haven't taken out that book. Your hubby and your mom to come with you, or you want to do it by yourself?
Oh, I could do something, but I do have support.
I know, I see that. Well, it's the city council, right? And Karen, and whereas Channel Young Learning Week, April 16th, 2018, and whereas to express our gratitude and appreciation as a teacher and a role model for her students and all that she encounters. I call upon all the citizens of Palmer to join us in this special recognition and impact she has made and continues to make on our youth. And I just want to say that one of the reasons, even though this happened back in April, one of the reasons we wanted to wait for this time because her husband was out of town working and we wanted him to be here. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is our reports, and City Manager has a report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So no written report tonight as we put together the agenda pretty quickly for this one, but just some updates. The first one, you approved the change order number 4 on the wastewater treatment plant. We're going to hold off on that. We're coming down to the end of the project. There may be a couple other things that we want to use our contingency fund for instead of this piece. This was a nice to do that takes us into phase 2 where we can use the water from Lagoon 1. We can put water sewage into Lagoon 1 and then pump it back into the MMBR. As we look to close this project in the next couple of months, there may be enough funding if we don't do this to purchase a second blower, which we took out of our project to get it into budget. So this being approved, we're gonna hold off before we execute to see where we stand with other items for the wastewater treatment plant that might be nicer to have if we can afford it. So again, appreciate the approval on this, but we're going to hold off just a little bit before we execute. Next item is the fire contract was approved by the Matsu Borough their last meeting. So the council will see it June 26th. There's no change to that other than the dollar amount. So any contentious items that were from last year remain resolved. There's discussion about it being a 5-year contract. The Borough Assembly is not opposed to that, but we have to change some of the language in the contract so that we don't end up with the same funding level for 5 years, as opposed to renewing it year to year. So it is a slight admin burden to do this year to year. But either way, the Assembly and the Borough would still have to approve the dollar amount, so we'll continue to do like we've been doing. Parking lot construction is, as you should be well aware of now. If you drive by City Hall, it's ongoing. We expect it to last upwards of 3 weeks. At the rate they're going in the last 24 hours, it may not be as long as we thought. At the end of this week, we anticipate being able to award alternative 1, I believe the number is, it's the fire station parking lot. We held off on that because we weren't sure what we'd uncover when we started digging in the front of the building. And we've found some things that we didn't expect to be there. One being a phone line. The other was the foundation wasn't as deep as we thought. It's not an issue that's going to cost us more money, but as we dig, we're discovering things that we just didn't know. So we didn't want to award the full contract and then have to come back and ask for more money. So things continue to progress as they have been the last day and a half. You may see on the 26th requesting approval to award alternate 1, which is the fire station parking lot. So again, we're keeping our fingers crossed that we found everything we're going to find, and when it's all said and done, we'll have a beautiful front parking lot, and then the pavement in front of the fire station will quit sinking as it is now. I don't recall if I mentioned it last time, but we have applied for an AARP community grant. The request was to pave the Cope Industrial Trail, the trail from Cope Industrial to Gulkena, and then to help us upgrade the parking lot at the Arboretum, and then potentially take that trail all the way to the corner. So we haven't heard on that, but our grant is in, and if that's approved, then we'll bring it to council for appropriation and acceptance. It's a national competition, but I think it's a good project because it does tie in the future, get the name right, Whispering Winds, the current Mountain Rose. It gives them another way to get to a park, which is the Arboretum, and also to the ball fields to mingle with the young folks. So I think it's a good project that fits in with all the criteria for that grant, and we'll see where it goes from there. The crosswalk across the Old Glen, DOT was waiting for our phone call. When we called, they were very receptive. However, receptive and final approval and hoops don't always mean the same thing. So based on some of the requirements that are required for a crosswalk across a highway, the cheaper version or the least expensive version, we anticipate being about $25,000. The bulk of that is an engineering study on traffic. The expensive version, which would require some additional work, more electrical work than anything else, because the high-end version is a push-button controlled crosswalk, and we're just going with the continuous flash crosswalk. So the lights themselves aren't that expensive for the cheap version. If we go the expensive version, then we're going to have to route underground under the road some electricity. So right now we're looking at $25,000. It's not budgeted to do the short survey and then put in solar-powered flashing lights. And then again, if there's no opposition at this point to that, I'll bring it to council for approval to appropriate additional funding for that, because we aren't budgeted for that project. We would, if we want to do the same thing, and this is kind of where we're looking ahead, when the Glen Highway expansion comes in and Colony Way is brought into the city, that's a state road. So if we want to put a crosswalk from where the is going to end on Geranium, it's on the wrong side of the road of our current pathway. So we would need a crosswalk to get across that state maintained road, and we have to go through this whole thing again. However, if we wait until it's done, they're going to turn the deed over to that highway, or to that road, not to the highway, to the Colony Way that comes into town. It's our road, and we can do what we want. So when we order the solar powered lights, we're going to order 2 sets, wait for the deed, and then we'll just plant our own crosswalk on Colony. And it'll just cost us the cost of the paint and the lights, as opposed to having to do another traffic study. So if the council approves this later on, then we will proceed with buying 2 sets of lights, put them in storage, and also give us a reserve if something happens to the first set on the Old Glen as a backup. But our intent is to push forward with this unless there's opposition for funding when it comes forward.
Okay.
And that's all I have for tonight.
questions or comments to the city manager regarding his report or any other item? Okay, city clerk's report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 3 items tonight that I just want to provide as reminders and announcement, which is first, just want to remind the council of next week's special meeting at 6 o'clock here in council chambers. And then also, we will be now actively recruiting for the 1 Park and Rec Board position that's open and 2 Planning and Zoning Commission positions. It is on our website currently with the application available there on the website's homepage. And recruitment will end, all applications due to my office by Friday, June 29th at 4:30 p.m. And then appointment will occur in July, likely the second meeting in July in order for timing and whatnot. And then also, we are a month away from the campaign filing period. That does start July 16th, Monday morning there at 8 o'clock. Anyone who is interested in running for a council seat can come contact my office, and you can start filing on that date. So again, that's Monday, July 16th at 8 o'clock, and the deadline is Friday, July 27th at 4:30 p.m. And that is all I have for right now.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments to the city clerk? Okay, alrighty. For my report, I think by the majority of the standards that I've heard, we had a very successful Colony Days. Were just people packed all over. In fact, even Friday afternoon, it was almost like it was fair traffic around town. People didn't leave, I don't think, from Friday Fling. They just stayed in town, and so it was excellent. On the rail commuter rail study, as far as I know, there's no money yet been found to do that. I think I had reported to you before that the legislature did not appropriate any money for moving forward with that project. And so as far as I know, we're still just in a holding pattern. And if we have to hold much longer, then that whole thing will be, even if they find the money, it will be postponed for a year. So that's the update on that. We have an agenda setting meeting this Thursday on the 14th and on July 12th and the 26th. Our mayor manager meeting will be in Houston on the 21st of this month. And then on the 19th, it'll be here in Palmer. And I believe the DOT man is still coming to be with us in the mayors and managers meeting in July, right? The Scottish Games, of course, are coming up at the end of this month, and you'll hear a little bit more about those later in the meeting. Palmer Pride is coming up. I haven't gotten any nominations from any of you. I was just talking to the clerk earlier. I think what I would like her to do is put something on Facebook and on the website, just asking, for lawn beautification awards. I believe we have ordered the signs again, so we'll have those. I think they were very well accepted last year. And of course, Citizen of the Year, Business of the Year, and we had a couple special awards last year, like the most unique business and some other, and the longest retail business in one location with one owner last year. And so if you have some things like that, we're certainly open to doing that. But we need to start thinking about that. And so, so I think, yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor West.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What is the deadline that you need to have those kind of nominations in?
I suppose probably for anything that we're going to have a trophy or, any kind of plaque done needs to be by the middle of July. It is July, 28th, is it? 27th? Okay, July 27th then is the night of Palmer Pride. And then after that, we have purchased the ball field game that night. So,
Yeah, so let's have them in by the 13th because
you're going to use your mic, please.
if
Go
I may,
ahead.
thank you, Madam Mayor. So for timing of ordering anything special through the company that we've used, we would need to know by the 13th to give them the proper amount of time to put anything together.
Okay. Now, the lawn beautification awards, you know, they're just generic, so we don't need, you know, those nominations ahead of time, because they're just this regular ones, right?
25th for those.
The 25th for those, okay.
2 days to do this.
Yeah, that's right, we do have certificates that we give out, but last year, I think we ended up with we did put in the second order, and I think we ended up with like about 5 or 6 that weren't nominated by anybody, so I just drove around town until I spotted something, went and knocked on their door, and they were really pretty well received, and so, anyway, I think people take pride in what they have done, and they appreciate us knowing that we appreciate them making Palmer beautiful. Any other questions or comments regarding my report? Okay, thank you. City Attorney's report?
No report this evening, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions to the city attorney from the council? Okay. The next item on our agenda is audience participation. Anyone can come forth and address the council on any subject for 3 minutes. If you represent a group, you can come forth for 5 minutes. And there is a sign-up sheet. You can either sign up before you speak or after you speak. So audience participation is now open.
Thank you for having me. My name is Jenny McDaniel. I'm the Games Coordinator for the Alaska Scottish Highland Games. We are, the Alaskan Scottish Club is who puts on the games, and we're a nonprofit organization that was established to promote the Scottish culture, heritage, and teachings to everyone in Alaska. We have a lot of events during the year, but our biggest event is the games. This year we celebrate our 37th year of doing the games and our 4th year in Palmer. Our move to Palmer has been a great thing for our games, and we absolutely love it out here. And we truly appreciate the support that both the city, local businesses, and individuals from the city have given us. There's a few really exciting things happening this year at our games that I'm coming here to share with you guys. One question that our club often gets is, how do I find out if I'm Scottish, or how do I find out where my family clans are? Well, this year we're very excited to have a genealogist coming up. His name is Lawrence Overmeyer, and he's going to do a workshop on genealogy and how to find your family history. Not just Scottish, but it's geared mostly towards Scottish. He's also going to be available at the games all day long for questions and help you find the information that you're looking for. We're also very lucky this year to bring up a band called The Fire. They're a high-energy Scottish band with a world-class fiddler, a bagpiper, and a gentleman that plays the bodhrán, which is a drum, and some other instruments. The exciting thing about bringing this band up this year is that through the help of grants from the Rasmussen Foundation, the Alaska State Council on the Arts, and the National Endowment of the Arts, we're able to bring them up to Alaska to do a tour of Alaska. So not only are they going to be playing at our games this year, they're also going to be doing free workshops in Anchorage, Talkeetna, and Homer. They're also going to be staying through till July 7th and playing at the Homer Highland Games. And they're also going to be playing over the 4th of July in Talkeetna. So they're hitting 4 major cities in Alaska, and we're really excited and proud to be offering that to the state of Alaska.
Good.
Of course, bagpipes and drumming is a standard thing that you see at the Scottish Highland Games, and this year we're excited to have our 5 local bands. Also have a group coming down from Fairbanks. We also have a group coming from Calgary, Canada, and they're a youth pipe band, so they'll be competing. So we have lots of music this year. And perhaps one of the most exciting things that's really going to set us apart this year from other years, and maybe not even just our games, but games across the country. Over the past 20 years, we've been able to bring professional athletes, and every year we've brought professional male athletes. This year, we're actually bringing up 6 of the top women in the world to compete at our games.
Wow.
These women are absolutely amazing. They're world record holders, national champions, U.S. champions, North American champions, world champions. It's going to be an absolutely amazing year on our field. So I could keep going on and talking about all the exciting that we have at the games, but I hope that each one of you are able to attend. And again, we really appreciate the support that the city gives us, not just the city, like I said, but individuals and businesses also. I have some flyers here if you're interested. It has our web address, and we're still looking for vendors and sponsors, so if there's anyone that is interested, we'd love to have you involved.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, I think the deputy clerk passed these out, and did you take a flyer for the front? So we have a flyer for City Hall, so.
Okay, great.
Great,
Thank you so
and
much.
thank you for coming. Okay, anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Roy Burkhart. This is the first Palmer Council meeting I've been to. Anyway, I encountered something that I think it's important for you to know about. And I have bought a home here in Palmer and have a homeowners association. And I'm having a problem with them, and it's something that we have to work out. Me and the homeowners is, nothing that you can do or anybody else should be involved in. But the opposition has called the police on me 4 times. And 3 times, they come in, they look, they said, no, here, because I was parked on the street, and they said, no, I'm not in violation of anything. The 4th time, this happened 2 times in one day. A lady policeman was called in the morning, and then another policeman come out, a sergeant, at 11 o'clock at night. And now, I don't know about you folks, but I'm not afraid of policemen, but when I see one coming down my walk, the first thing I think of is, did one of my kids get hurt? Did some of my family members? Because I'm not afraid they're going to arrest me for dealing drugs or anything, because I don't do that. So, anyway, but anyway, when the sergeant come out, he says, "Here, this is you got to move that camper van out of here." I said, "Well, there's been 3 other officers look at it, and they said it was okay." Well, they were wrong. So anyways, here's the ordinance, and you got to go by this. So I'd read the ordinance before, and I went in the house, and he went back to the police station, and I called him back there, and I said, "Read this section right here. It says it doesn't apply from 10 o'clock Friday evening until 8 o'clock Monday morning, and it's 11 o'clock when you knock on my door." Yeah, I guess you're right. Now, there's something wrong with it, number one, for him to treat a citizen like this, but then to override a decision of 3 other patrolmen, and he was wrong. He was wrong. And I know I can't suggest any disciplinary action, but what I can say is that I had a business, and if that was one of my employers, I'd fire him. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thanks, Roy. Anyone else that would like to come forth and testify to the council about any item that's on the agenda or anything else they would like to talk about? Seeing and hearing no one, I will close the audience participation. The next item on our agenda is new business. The Committee of the Whole regarding the review of our council member applications and the interviews, and then maybe the selection and appointment of the city council member. What is the wishes of the council?
Move to go into a committee of the whole.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we go into the Committee of the Whole. Discussion by the council? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. The yeses have it, and we're now in the Committee of the Whole. Okay, the first item under the business on the Committee of the Whole is a review of the council member applications. I think on your desk is the applications from, we have 2 people that have applied for the one position. And their application is there, as well as we had asked them to reply to some written questions and also submit a resume. And I believe both candidates have done that. Anybody have any question about that? Everybody has that, right? So So I think that's the first step. The next step then is the interview questions. There are 4 questions that we were going to ask verbally to them, and it was my understanding that we had discussed that we would do it alphabetical by last name when we talked about it at the last council meeting, and that I would be the one that would be asking the questions. So with that, the first applicant that we have is Kip Bailey, and if you will come forth, sir, please, and just sit in the chair and turn on the mic. And I will ask you the questions. And did we talk about how we're going to give, 2 minutes for each one of the answers for the questions, or had we discussed that, council?
That sounds appropriate.
That's not appropriate?
I said that sounds appropriate.
Oh, okay. Breakfast or something.
Set the timer?
Yeah, so why don't you go ahead and put it on 2 minutes, and we won't necessarily hold you to it, but but Deputy Mayor Best may. So, and I think you know which questions we're going to ask you orally, right? Were you told those questions? No. Okay. So the first question is, tell us about yourself. And we do have all the written things, and so you can either rehearse those a little bit, or you can tell new things.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and council members. My name's Kip Bailey. I lived in, we moved to Alaska in '01, lived in Eagle River for almost 10 years, moved out to Palmer in 2010. I worked for the Anchorage School District at Mirror Lake Middle School. Outside of that, I raise an active family that takes part in a lot of activities out here in Palmer. And as a family, we've received quite a bit from this town, looking to give back. I've worked with scouts out here. We've been in the fire training building and at the firehouse for Cub Scouts under Jeff Vincent. We've been at the middle school. I've helped coach wrestling both in the schools and then out here in Palmer with the Matsu Matmen. Walked in many Colony Day parades with scouts. So I've got a wife who works for the school district out here. She's looking to scale back as she runs Jane Bailey Photography. It's an LLC here in Palmer. I've got a daughter in high school and then 2 boys in middle school. I take part as a secretary in the Palmer Moose Nordic Booster Club.
Okay. All right. The next question is, what do you feel is the most critical issue facing the city of Palmer today?
Continuing to offer all that we do at this point in time, knowing that the state fiscal plan is a little bit up in the air. I imagine that our city fiscal plan, although I looked and it looked like revenues are up maybe a little bit, projected revenues, but to continue to offer maintain roads and public service and wastewater and airport and just continue to maintain with limited funds.
Okay. What do you think is the most positive attribute of the city?
I would have to say it's a community that really encourages a vibrant downtown. When you look at Colony Days, you look at the wine walk, you look at the Palmer Pride, the Monday night runs. So that's what I've got.
Okay. Share with us your assessment of any recent decision the city council made, whether you liked it or didn't like it, or how you would.
I don't have much to say here.
Okay, all right, that's fine, okay. All righty, thank you very much. Okay, the next candidate is Linda Combs. And we will ask the same 4 questions. Okay,
I have a couple crib notes. I'm having a senior moment. It's my birthday and I'm just a little forgetful, so.
okay, the first question is, tell us about yourself.
All right.
Anything you'd like to add or reiterate what you already submitted in writing?
Okay. In the last 20-some years, I've sat in this seat a few times. not very often. I've been on the other side, and gratefully so. I have been honored to be able to serve the city in a lot of different roles, I believe, including being on the city council for 6 years. Prior to that, being the first lady for 6 years as well. That gives me a great viewpoint of how our city is exactly as welcoming and as vibrant and as solid a place to be presented to folks like Mr. Bailey wanting to raise his family here. I'm hearing the same things that I was doing many years ago. It just wasn't maybe wrestling or Nordic. Or I did have a lot of Boy Scouts time, and it was baseball and basketball. But I think that those particular positions have given me a nice, solid background in the community and what the community has grown into and where they're going. And I've spent enough time with Mr. Gaddy that I know what the role is, I believe, of a counselor as well. So, and besides that, I know all of you guys.
Thank you. What do you feel is the most critical issue facing the city of Palmer today?
The continuance of the stability that the leadership in this community has provided over the last couple of decades. We've weathered, I'm not real sure if we'll still say we're still in a recession. We know things are tough. I know from talking to my friends who own businesses downtown that, yes, they're still tough. But we have weathered it well, and I believe it's because there's been a moderate and consistent leadership that has come from this council and the previous ones as well. They have no problem with serving exactly as the definition in the Palmer Municipal Code is. What is important? Public safety, infrastructure. Those are the things to capitalize. And then we've been very fortunate to have a lot of people that are willing to be active in the community for more commercial endeavors and to be more and more welcoming. That's why we have such large crowds, I believe, at our events, is we've managed to become a destination.
Thank you. What do you think is the most positive attribute of the city?
I think becoming a destination, I know that I've worked on many committees and with many groups over the last decade in particular, that we have worked very hard so that when somebody says something to someone in Anchorage or Fairbanks or Juneau or whatever, they look at Palmer as being a destination. It's a destination to attend the Midsummer Art and Garden Fair or the Wine Walk that's become so popular in just 3 short years, actually. The Who Let the Girls Out events, all of these major events, and then everything that has spun off from them has given, I know that it really gives a lot of a more solid toehold to our brick and mortar businesses, and it really makes a difference for them. But we've managed to, with this community and the fact that there's so many helping hands and willing hands and the generosity of their time, we've managed to make the jewel that we are shine.
Okay, thank you. Share with us your assessment of any recent decisions the city council has made.
It was long overdue to do the plastic bag rearrangement of how they're distributed. I believe that's how the city manager is describing it these days, and I do like that description. I had been approached many years ago and asked about sponsoring that sort of ordinance. I know that I've worked with people at the recycling center in different groups. It wasn't quite time, but when you all did it here a few weeks ago, it was the time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's
You
all
bet.
we have. Thank you. Okay. So now we have done the interviews. The next item is the way we had talked about it, I believe, was that we would do it like what we do for the deputy mayor and the deputy mayor, is we just ask for nominations from the council, and everybody would nominate, and then we will vote. Is that correct?
That
Yes.
is correct, but we need to come out of committee of the whole.
Oh, to do that? Okay.
Yes, that is correct, Madam Mayor, but we do need to come out of committee of the whole. That only covered
Okay.
number one, because decision will be made, and that can't be made in a committee of the whole.
Okay, great. Thank you for that reminder. Okay, and I have a motion to come out of the committee on the whole.
So move, Madam Mayor.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we come out of the committee on the whole. And any amendments? Okay, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, say no. We are now out of the committee on the whole, and we're ready for action. So what is the wishes of the council?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Linda Combs to fulfill the position of this evening for city council.
Okay, so we have nomination for Linda. Yes, Councilman LaFrance? Oh, okay. But you do have a question.
We're waiting on a second, right?
I did,
Do we need a second?
I didn't, do we need, no. We're waiting to see if there is another nomination.
Okay, well, I'll nominate Kip Bailey for the open council seat.
Okay, all right, so both candidates have been nominated. We have for Linda and we have for Kip. Alrighty, so somebody want to make a motion to close nominations?
Move to close nominations.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we close nominations. Any opposition to closing nominations? Okay, so you have a question, sir?
I do, and it occurs to me now that I probably should have addressed this in the committee of the whole.
Okay,
So please correct me if I'm out of order, but I'm wondering if I know we're heading into potentially uncharted territory here with entertaining the idea of having two members of the same family on the council. And I'm wondering if the attorney wants to address this, because I know in a session I took with him at AML, it was strongly recommended that cities don't go down this path if it's avoidable. So if it's appropriate now for the attorney to address it or not.
Oh, Madam Mayor,
yes, uh-huh.
I actually have a question because clerk has already certified that these individuals, per our code and charter, are able to be appointed to this.
Right.
So the clerk has already spoken on that. So I don't necessarily know that we need a legal opinion after that point.
Okay. Okay, all right, yes, Councilman? go
I
on.
would like to hear what Mr. Gaddy has to say.
So is there objections to Mr. Gaddy responding?
It
Yeah.
just brings to my feeling is if the clerk has certified them to
Right.
be legally allowed, then this is a redundant question.
Right. So, yeah,
Madam Mayor, thank you. Well, in anticipation of this question, understanding the makeup of the city council and the candidates, I did a little research this afternoon on the question, and under the Palmer Charter and Code, there's really no prohibition with respect to relatives serving on the city council. There's not a nepotism question because they don't supervise one another, and they would be subject to the same Open Meetings Act requirements. The city charter and the city code with respect to council members, including the mayor, speak about conflicts of interest and substantial financial interests. And I know I've had other clients in the past, particularly in the rural communities, where there's a number of family members that are actually serving on the council, and there have actually been married individuals serving on the council. And I didn't find any opinions in Alaska that addressed this question. There was one in Florida from the Florida Attorney General that raised the question that it wasn't a problem, at least with respect to her analysis. But in my analysis today and in the past, I don't think we've ever said at the NEO training that it was a prohibition, but it may not be, it may be something that, if possible, you don't need to have that, but you really can't stop someone from running for office, and if they were running for office and were elected, I think the will of the voters would be appropriate. The city clerk has also certified that this is okay, and I confirm that certification. I think it's okay, and I don't think there's a conflict of interest or a problem.
Okay, thank you. And I will, and there's a member in the audience also that can verify this, and the clerk can verify it if she wants to go back and look at the records. Both my son and myself served together on the council for 3 years. And so unless something has changed within the last, few years, we served together. We both are elected at the same election, and we served for 3 years, so. Okay, so, ready? Yes, Councilman Combs.
Can I add a comment?
Sure.
I just want to recount a story that happened about 4 years ago, and maybe Linda and Mr. Gaddy remember this. I wanted to apply for the bed for the Board of Economic Development, and Linda came to me and said that she had spoken with Mr. Gaddy about the situation, and that while it was allowed, it was a perception of the idea that I would maybe come forward with something that the council could vote on, and Linda would have to recuse herself from a vote, just for perception purposes. And so I didn't run. I didn't put my name in for the bed. And I read the code as well. It's allowed, but it is, I think, something we need to think about as far as perception.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
if I may, in those situations when you've got advisory boards that are actually working below the level of the city council, and those, I understand the perception, that would be along the lines if we had a strong mayor position where you were running the day-to-day business and we had an individual that wanted to come work for you that happened to be relative. I get that nepotism ideal in the perception of that as well. Same kind of scenario where we have advisory boards, and you start seeing somebody who is sitting on the council, and we are all one of 7, but there can be that perception when you start stacking a board with your cousins and your brothers and all that kind of stuff. I get that, but I also understand with situations like what Mr. Gaddy talks about, you can get up into some of the villages and there's very large families, and at what point does serving your community and the desire to serve your community, how you're related to some folks, there's only a certain pool of folks that you get to draw from. So I think each of those kind of situations have to be balanced out with your community itself. And it's something that I think this body has tried to stay away from the perception of, and I get what the Councilwoman Combs is saying right now. We've always been very cautious and conservative to make sure that the appearance of questionable behavior is always out of there. We cannot be, that we are above reproach. So I think it's something that we have stepped away from, but.
Well, are you going to tell your story, sir?
No, I got just input.
Use you as an example, but if you're going to tell it, I'll let you do it.
Oh, no. All I'm saying is, I think we're kind of beating a dead horse here, and we're picking and choosing our fights because, a year ago, no one had a problem with this. When we certified the doggone candidates, nobody came from the community and complained there were 2 Combses running. Nobody on this body complained that there were 2 Combses running. Nobody doggone cared up until doggone voting day, or until this moment right now, that there were 2 Combses competing for the same board or council. And if that's the case, then maybe I missed that meeting, but no one came out and complained there were 2 people from the same family running for a doggone elected seat. I mean, if it was a big deal then, it should have been brought up then. Now we're doggone cherry picking.
What I was thinking about, sir, was both you and your wife were serving on various boards and commissions for the city, and you were elected, and then your wife resigned I think, from at least one board, if not two, just because of that, the perception of what that would be and whether that would put you in a compromising situation. So I think you and your wife exemplified what that relationship is regarding the boards and commissions and the elected body. Councilman Combs.
I'd just like to clarify for Mr. Fuller that as a person that knocked on over 1,000 doors during my campaign, I definitely heard a lot about it.
Okay. Ready? Any further discussion? Alrighty, so I guess what we will do, we probably will, do you want to vote in the way they were elected, or do you want to vote according to alphabetical? Okay.
We've done it by nomination.
By nomination, okay. So Linda was the first person nominated. All those that are in favor of Linda serving on the City of Palmer Council, say aye, and then maybe also raise your hand so the clerk has, or turn on your light, okay? I'm sorry, what did you say? Yeah, so those that were in favor of appointing Linda, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And those then that are in favor of appointing Kip, please say yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Linda has received the most votes, and she, in order of any action the council takes, we have to have 4 in favor, and so we did have 4, so congratulations, Linda, you are the newly elected, or newly appointed, I guess, member of the City Council. So, and thank you, Kip. As you heard earlier, the clerk was talking about some boards and commissions that we have some vacant positions, and we don't consider those lesser positions. But if that's something you'd be interested in, or of course anybody else in the audience that lives inside the city, we would encourage that. And so thank you for applying. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to, for the council on the next steps, if you guys can please also forward in your, to myself, the interviews and so forth. That is record and needs to be entered into that. And then also, I wanted to let everyone know that what will happen now is I will work with Linda Combs to get all of required paperwork, everything needed, finish not qualification, because it's already been qualified, but finishing everything to make sure that we can get her oath of office done at next Tuesday's special council meeting, which is at 6 p.m. And so the oath will be administered then, and she will be seated at that time.
Okay, already? Yes, thank you. Thank you again. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the record of items placed on the table. Madam Clerk?
Items we have for record for the table is the candidate applications and the Alaska Scottish Highland Games flyer.
Okay. Now we have another opportunity for audience participation. And so I'll open audience participation. Anyone can come forth and address the council on any matter. 3 minutes if you're representing yourself, and 5 minutes if you're representing a group. Okay, seeing no one come forth, I will close audience participation and we'll have council member comments. Councilman Carrington, we'll start with you, please.
Well, congrats to Linda, and I also want to thank Kip for putting his hat in the ring. As someone who, when I first got on, was teased for having a name that wasn't really well known in Palmer when I first got on, I appreciate the bravery involved.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, indeed. Congratulations, Linda. I look forward to serving with you. And thank you, Kip, for throwing your name in the ring. And thanks to everyone who helped out with Colony Days. It was spectacular this year.
Deputy Mayor, yes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, congratulations to both the candidates to have participated in. You go out there and get your name out there. You get to have a few opportunities to be heard on the record. And I hope this is the beginning of engagement within the community. There's, like they had said earlier, boards and commissions. We've got planning and zoning, parks and rec. You know, with being a family man myself, we're always being engaged with folks and their concerns within the community, with our children. So please participate. Motorcycles are out there right now. Be safe. There's also been a big push for boater safety. We've seen that here recently. When you're out there enjoying the sunshine that we have right now, think about boat safety as well.
Thank you. Councilman Fuller?
Thanks for coming out, both of you guys, for trying to do this, and I really do hope you follow through. If you really want to do council, run this fall, please. I mean, it's always great to see new blood in the ring, see change. Congratulations, Linda. Great to see you back. And calling you guys was awesome, and I think we're going to have to start looking at more venues, because when that parking lot closes this next year, we're going to have a big problem.
Councilman Combs?
I'm excited about the grant. If we're applying for money with them, maybe we can look at livable communities again, since it would be a good partnership. I'm excited about the Scottish Highlands folks to the city. Colony Days was a huge success. I've never seen that many people from the parade grandstand ever. So thank you.
Okay. And so with that, I will adjourn the meeting for June 12th.